listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. In this tutorial, we are going to focus on cue cards. This will be an incredibly valuable tutorial for you if you struggle to get started with cue cards. It's also going to be useful for you if you don't know how to structure what you're going to say, if you're worried about the grammar you're going to say, and especially if you are interested in a set system for answering the cue cards. Now, this will be exceptionally interesting for the student who is around band 6, band 6.5, and aiming for a 7. This technique that I will share with you, this tool, will just help you structure, will help you get started, and it's a solid foundation for beginning your preparation. I've been using this technique for a while with my private students. I've seen some exceptional results, and finally I think it's at the point where I can share it with you. I'm using this technique at the moment with one of my private students. We are seeing some huge progress, and so grab a pen and we'll jump straight into it. So the idea is, it's not the idea, we start by looking at our cue card. Okay, so it could be speak about a book you have recently read. And as you know, we've got 4 bullet points. Now, if you're around a band 6, band 6.5, then you probably need some set phrases just to get you started. Now, I have one student and she always started it incorrectly. It was like, I like to tell you about, and it's so heartbreaking when a student starts like this, because it's the first words, and it can be the first words that come out are just wrong. They're just grammatically incorrect, and it's like the examiner will just intuitively go band 6, and it's hard to get out of that band 6 classification. When the examiners kind of like used their intuition, and now you're struggling. However, if you start with a set phrase like, I would like to tell you about, and it's not just about the grammar, it's the intonation there. So I would like to tell you about a book I recently read. So it's the intonation. Let me just emphasize. I would like to tell you about a book I recently read. And there's a bit of inflection there, and it just gets you off to such a smoother start. Again, describe an important technological invention. I would like to tell you about an important technological invention. There we go. And now what we do is, and this is what you're going to do for your preparation. And later in this tutorial, I will tell you how to extend it, and how to extend it in a way that will further boost your score. But when you're preparing at home or with your tutor, use this technique. So as always, it's based on reflection. I've talked about reflection a lot. And what we do is we work through the cue cards, and we use those logically to structure our talk, our cue card chat, so to speak. And what you will do is, when you're preparing, you just go through and you say each bullet point, but you've reflected it. And this is going to help you, one, obviously structure your talk. 2, you're going to answer the question. You're going to answer what the examiner wants, which is basically to hear what's on the cue card, the bullet points, to follow the cues. And thirdly, it's going to give you the opportunity to expand on your answer. But first, let's just take it back a second and we'll talk about the preparation practice you can do. So you work through the cue card. You say, in this one, let's just go back to the book, what the title is and who the author is. So how do we reflect this? So we would say, the title is Caraval and the author is Sally Jennings, for example. Okay, that's all you're going to do for your preparation. You work through each bullet point and you just use it as a kind of hook. And that's all you're going to do for the first preparation, for your first sort of like warm-up. You just work through every bullet point there. The book is about an ancient time in history where there were contests, okay? You don't really have to worry about the second part of the sentence. Just get the first part correct. Why you decided to read it. I decided to read it because, you see, that's it. That's all you have to do. And you can do this with a pen and paper to get started with. And then you do it, obviously, spoken when you read the cue card. Final bullet point. And explain what you particularly liked about the book. What I particularly liked about the book was, okay, so you can see here that we've got, by just doing this reflection technique on each bullet point, we're going to start off grammatically correct. And the final bullet point, if we reflect it accurately, we have used a relative clause, which is a high scoring feature, especially if you obviously get it correct. So let's just look at another cue card. Describe an important technological invention. I would like to tell you about an important technological invention. This invention is the mobile phone. You see? And I didn't say my mobile phone, because my mobile phone wasn't a technological invention. It was one of billions of phones that have been produced over the last 30 years. So, who invented it? I'm not exactly sure who invented it. Yeah? It is used for communicating with people, playing games, and even booking travel arrangements. Okay? Explain why you think it's important. I think it is important because it opens up so many doors for me. For example, that's all you're going to do with your preparation, especially if you're a self-study. You go through and you try and reflect every single bullet point. And now, once we have this mastered, and if you are interested in mastering it, there are some, I think there's like 2 spaces left in my private student sort of like schedule. And what any decent teacher would do would just drill you. This is exactly what I do. I get a huge list of cue cards, and we've just been working through them. And just to make it faster, I just say each bullet point and I get the student to hear it and get into the habit of reflecting it accurately and quickly. And again, this is an insanely powerful skill, and it's exceptionally useful in part 3 as well. However, we do not want to spend the entire class sounding like a robotic parrot. So this brings me to the next stage. Once we have mastered, and once you have mastered this skill, And this, let me just clarify, this is listening actively to what the examiner or tutor is saying, and then using the exact same tense, the exact same prepositions, the exact same articles, the exact same vocabulary that you've heard or read, and using it in your answer. This will ensure that your answer starts off perfect. And then, once we've got this to a level of automaticity, once it becomes quick, automatic, and perfect, we move on to stage 2. So, for example, we have that final bullet point I just mentioned, and explain what you particularly liked about, and explain why you think it is important. So when we have that typical one, we don't have to, once we've mastered reflection, we don't have to continue with it. We can start making it a little bit more natural, and we can start using synonyms. For example, and explain why you think it is important. I think it is important because, or I believe it's important because we're getting better now, or I believe it was significant, or I believe it is significant because. Okay? And this just makes it sound even more natural, less robotic, and gives us an opportunity, again, to boost our scores. So let's just go through the 2 cue cards we mentioned before. Speak about a book that you have recently read. I would like to tell you about a book I read a few weeks ago. You see, now we're using a different time phrase. Not recently, I read it a few weeks ago, but we still keep the question, we still keep our answer in the present tense, just like the cue card asked us to. What the book title is and who the author is. So the title of the book is called 1982, for example. I believe the author is George Orwell, but I can't remember exactly. Can you see? We're just adding some more details here, and we're just adding some more phrases. Yeah. And this is exactly what you should do. You build it up. You start with the reflection, you get the basics under control, and then you do it again, and you start adding your own vocabulary, your own synonyms, making sure that we are still in the right tense and we are still addressing the bullet point in front of us. And just as a side note, we could say the title of the book is 1982, I think, but I'm not entirely sure. And also, I believe the author was called George Orwell, but again, I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that, we could also say. Okay? The reason I don't remember is because I was so enthralled by the book, I didn't really pay much attention to those details. You see? Just building it out and building up to a band 8 or band 9 answer. Next, the book is about a dystopian time in the future. It's quite a dark book. It's quite grim. However, the actual story is truly fascinating. You see? Now we're adding some details, we've added some topic-specific vocabulary, we're describing the nature of the book. Okay? Why you decided to read it. I chose to read it because I've seen it on numerous lists of top 100 books of the 21st century. Also, it's about technology, which is a personal interest in mine. And perhaps most importantly, it's said to be one of the most eye-opening books about the mix of technology in society, which I think nowadays is very relevant. You see? So there, what we did is we just jumped between different tenses. We talked about, the importance of technology in society today, and that was my rationale for reading it. So this is what we do in the private classes. First we get the basics, then we start adding synonyms, and then we start building out the answer and incorporating newer, more advanced features of switching between different tenses. And again, we practice this transition between tenses. I have a whole list of exercises, and as I've said before, it's not fun. We're not going to be laughing, okay? However, the purpose of the class isn't to have a fun time. The purpose of the class isn't to enjoy ourselves. The purpose of the class is to get you to band 7, 8, or 9. And we do this just through hammering small, tiny fragments of the English language. Fragments I chose from my own experience that I know will get you to the next band score. And we drill them until they are flawless, until they become quick and automatic. And then once we've mastered them, we move on to another tiny fragment of the English language. I've worked like this for years, and it just works. Next point, and explain what you particularly liked about the book. Well, what I especially liked about the book was the writing style of the author. He writes in an incredibly succinct way, and he doesn't waste time writing long descriptions like some other authors do. The plot is also quite fast moving, and it makes the book such an enjoyable read. And that's my talk about a book I have read recently. I hope you liked it. So just like we said a few minutes ago about having set phrases we can use, this is one I've mentioned numerous times before, and that's my talk about XYZ. I hope you liked it. Smile. Okay? And smiling, it might just seem a weird thing to suggest in a formal IELTS exam. However, look at it from the examiner's point of view. They probably come from an Anglo-Saxon culture, or if they've learnt English to native level, they are very familiar with the English culture, Anglo-Saxon culture, where being pleasant and polite is expected. It's a feature of the language. The examiners had maybe 10, 15, 20 other students that day. You just want to make their life easier. So you sit there, you're smiling, and you're just making their life that little bit better, put them in a better mood. What are the chances that it affects your score? It's going to have a tiny impact, I admit. However, what we do is we use lots of tiny little features and we stack the deck. And like a 1% change here, a 2% change there, a 3% change there, they all add up. And especially if you're teetering around a band 6.5, if you're so close, for example, you may have got band 7 other times, but the last 2 times you've had band 6.5. Well, just stacking the deck using these little features will help you get to your desired band score. So if you are interested in taking your exam score, your IELTS band speaking score a little bit further, if you are in a rush to pass fast, then sign up and have a look at our recent emails, because we are running a promotion now where you can get 50% off your first class. So all you have to do is sign up, go to IELTSPodcast.com, sign up for the Pass Fast IELTS newsletter, and when we publish new tutorials, we'll usually send out an email telling students about the classes, and that will include all the links that you need. So have a beautiful day. Keep moving forward. You've got this. And if you are interested in working with me and you can't find the emails, just email me at ben@IELTSPodcast.com. Have a fantastic day and all the best with your IELTS preparation. Could you hear my smile at the end? That's the power of a smile. I'm pretty sure you heard it. Have a beautiful day. Take care.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.